So hi, everyone. I'm Rose Viscardi. Um, and just a couple of housekeeping points to make. If you would please stay muted during the presentation. We will have a Q&A session at the end. And feel free to put in any questions or comments in the public chat feature, and we will address those questions at the end. And there should be plenty of time to answer questions. We will save the chat and as well as a recording of this session. So if you have to leave and miss any part of it, or if you know anyone who would like this to have this information, we will be posting both the recording of the session as well as the chat Q&A. So what we're going to try and do today is give you some information about the UMB CTSA KL2 Mentored Career Development Award, and this will be our third competition for this award. And as I introduce myself, I'm Rose Viscardi. I'm a professor of pediatrics and a secondary appointment in medicine. And I will be the director and have been since the last 3 years. However, I am retiring at the end of December. And Christy Chang, who has been the director of the internal KL2 program, will be assuming being the director of the KL2 program, at CTSA program as well. The associate director is a very capable person who's been at this also since the beginning, Dr. Graziella Calio. And she is also the navigator who's been answering your questions and helps in processing these applications. So any questions about the applications, she's a great person to contact. And then Dr. Stephen Davis, who's the chair of the Department of Medicine. He's also the Vice President of Clinical Translational Science, and he's the Director of the Institute of Clinical and Translational Research, and hopefully he'll be joining us at sometime during this session. So what we're going to try and do this afternoon is talk about the purpose of the KL2 program, what the program is about, what will be required of the scholars who are participants in the program, and what's required for the application as well as eligibility. So the purpose of the scholarship is to basically develop future leaders in clinical and translational research. So you will be trained in research designs and methods, and also be able to work collaboratively with other disciplines to generate new knowledge to improve health. So at this point, team science is a really important skill. And the program will provide you with rigorous didactic training leading to an advanced degree, help to develop and execute a research project as part of the scholar requirements, mentorship in an interdisciplinary and collaborative environment. And there's a significant emphasis on career development activities to prepare you for a career in academic medicine. So the program is organized funded by the NIH National Center for Advancing Translational Science, or NCATS. It's a Clinical and Translational Science Award, or CTSA, to Johns Hopkins and the University of Maryland. The mission, as we said, is to advance and integrate clinical translational research activities and training. And so there is funding specifically for career development, for didactic training, as well as mentorship. And we work collaboratively with Hopkins to offer didactic training. There's monthly grants in progress, as well as Catalyst seminars for scholars. A little more about that later. So the program for each scholar is a 3-year commitment. The first 2 years are supported by the NCATS, funded by the J. Hopkins Maryland CTSA partnership. The third year of support is provided by the nominating division department or school, who have to make a commitment for support for that third year, and that needs to be stated in the nominating letter by the chair of the department. So what will be important is that you have a conversation soon with your department chair be sure that they are supporting your nomination for this award, and to let them know that you are hoping to apply. And there is an expectation for all scholars to submit an individual NIHK application. So you need to be thinking about that timeline of when's appropriate to apply for the KL2 and readiness for applying for an individual K application. To be eligible, it's all full-time junior faculty up to assistant professor, and you need to be within 5 years of appointment to the School of Medicine, School of Pharmacy, Nursing, School of Social Work, or School of Law. The requirement is for a research or health professional doctoral degree or equivalent, and that list there is not exhaustive, just the main ones. Epidemiologists, behavioral scientists, nurses with clinical relevant doctoral degrees are also eligible. If you are a postdoctoral fellow, but are anticipating a faculty appointment by July 1 of 2021, you also can apply, but it has to be stated that your faculty appointment cannot be contingent upon the receipt of said KL2 award. And another eligibility requirement is that you need to be a US citizen, a permanent resident, or non-citizen national status at time that the application is submitted. And what you have to commit to is at least 75%, and your chair, at least 75% protected time available for research training for the 3 years. It can be reduced with prior approval to 50%, and this is specifically for surgical subspecialists, but still requires justification. Commitment to a career focused on a clinical investigation, and a commitment to additional training, including a core didactic curriculum, and then either a master's in an area of clinical research, like an MPH, clinical investigation, biostatistics, et cetera, or health sciences, and at least one or an interdisciplinary team of mentors of UMB faculty primarily, but potentially JHU faculty who are established clinical researchers. You cannot have served as a PI on an NIH R01 program project, sub-project, or U series grant, or already have been a recipient of any K series. If you've had previous R03 or R21 funding, that does not exclude you from eligibility. And importantly, you must not have an active NIH K series award application pending. So you can't simultaneously submit an individual K23 application as well as a KL2, because they're both considered federal funding and you can't double dip. If you have previously applied to the CTSA KL2 for the 2020 cycle, but you weren't selected for funding, you can submit a revised application, but you still have to meet all the other eligibility criteria, such as still be within 5 years of your appointment. So what types of research are supported? Research, it is clinical research. So research conducted with human subjects, materials of human origin, such as tissues, specimens, cognitive phenomena, for which an investigator directly interacts with human subjects. So examples are patient-oriented research, epidemiology and behavioral studies, outcome research, and health services research, comparative effectiveness research. What is not supported is a project performed in a laboratory only using de-identified banked or human tissues, and certainly not an animal-based research project. So KL2 award includes salary support up to $110,000 plus fringe benefits, and this is depending on the percent effort committed. The tuition fees for full-time faculty for a master's degree will be supported by UMB, and there will also be funds to help with research-related activity costs and charges. Funds to help with scholarly travel required. For instance, you are required to attend the annual Translational Science Conference plus specialty discipline conferences. Right now, there aren't any much in the way of cost for these things because so far they've been virtual. What they will be in the near, the next year or two, we don't know, but there will be funds available for travel. So features of the training experience is said that protected time for research and career development activities needs to be 75% or more. As we mentioned, tuition and research support. There's a structured core didactic courses, and we'll go over that shortly. And then practical training, hands-on experience in design, conduct, and analysis of a clinical research in team settings, interdisciplinary mentorship. And there's required engagement in career development activities. And these are specifically 2 monthly seminars. There's one called the Grant in Progress. The other is a Catalyst, Translation and Innovation. And then participation at the Translational Science Annual Meeting. There is also biostatistical support for your research project. So here's the education program overview. There, in each of the years, 1, 2, and 3, and you can see most of it is focused on that first year of foundational curriculum and biostatistics. You're required to take a course in research ethics and health informatics. And then particularly with an emphasis on career development and leadership training. And then year 2 is really a focus on submitting your individual K-23. So curriculum on grant writing is included in that year. And then there's optional project-specific coursework that's appropriate for your specific project. And then over all years is the career development opportunities, grants in progress that you're required to attend and you're required to present each year, as well as the Catalyst and ICTR seminars. So you're required to complete that didactic coursework leading to your advanced degree or certificate, submit a K-23 mentored patient-oriented research career development award or an equivalent K award by the end of your second year, though we do encourage earlier applications. Our first KL2 scholar did submit her K-23 application during her first year. There's a high expectation likelihood that you'll have to resubmit a K-23 application, so earlier submission increases your chances of obtaining your K-23 by the end of the 3 years. And you're also required to submit biannual progress reports. So we do keep track of how you're doing, and we're available to help you if you run into any obstacles. We do have expectation for your mentors. The mentors are expected to meet with you at least every 2 weeks, provide you feedback and guide your career development, and also submit biannual mentor reports. As well as they're expected to attend your annual grant in progress presentation and participate in a mentor skills development workshop. There's opportunities for the scholars to evaluate the program. So in the first year, we ask you to prepare an individual development plan, including what your coursework is going to be, who your mentoring team, plans for using ICTR resources, and what your plan for grant submission and career development. And you complete this clinical research appraisal inventory. And then every 6 months, we'll do an evaluation of where you are as far as completing your planned coursework, where you are with your research project, any publications that have resulted to date, preparation for your seminar, and how things are going with your mentor-mentee relationship. And then there's an annual evaluation of that mentoring competency assessment, as well as repeating the clinical research appraisal inventory. So these are done both for monitoring your progress, but also for how the program is doing. And these reports have to be submitted to NCATS in an annual progress report. We are continuing to work with integrating with the Hopkins KL2 program. So as I mentioned, the Catalyst seminar, which is monthly and alternates with the Grant in Progress seminars. So in the grant in progress, it's essentially a roundtable review of your specific aims. And so you can get some really great feedback on what you're proposing to do on your methodology. And this can be a wonderful opportunity to help you shape your individual K-23 application. And that's why it's called grant in progress rather than a work in progress presentation. We participate in the Translational Science meeting planned for 2021. We meet monthly with Hopkins and Maryland KL2 program directors and administrative personnel to discuss not just our individual scholars, but more sort of overall the scholar cohort. And we have been developing and sharing validated tools to track your performance and mentoring. So other possibilities is shared professional development workshops. We had a very successful this past summer, a joint writing accountability group that was very well received. So that is being planned for next summer as well. And we're going to also invite Columbia University in New York to also participate with our scholars in a writing accountability group. And then I think a great opportunity is this visiting scholar program where you as a scholar can visit either virtually or maybe someday in person other CTSA institutions where you can give a talk and then meet other professors or other investigators at that institution. So a great way to start to build your network outside the institution. So the Catalyst seminar stands for, and I can never remember this, why I have it in here, Collaborative Approach to Training, Advances, and Learning Innovations in the Science of Translation. Cutesy. But here are some of the topics that we have been in recent years. So digital health innovations and faculty development, using mobile health research applications, innovation commercialization and medicine initiative, building your personal business plan, startups, medical innovation, et cetera, regulatory science, which is all very important to understand, particularly if you're doing clinical research and are trying to bring a new device or new drug to IND approval and to market. So you'll, when you apply for the KL2 program, you will also need to submit a application to the graduate school. And the link for that is on the KL2 funding opportunity application description. And the deadline for the Master of Science Epidemiology and Clinical Research, the clinical research track, is due February 15th. And the certificate program is due March 1st. I would really recommend that you go look at the graduate school website, look over the various offerings to see what is the best fit for you. And so you can also understand the difference between the certificate program and the master's program. If you already have an advanced degree, you might want to think about proposing an individualized program where you can select specific coursework, seminars, boot camps, et cetera, that you can justify as supporting the research that you're proposing to do. And that individualized program has to be approved by our program leadership. So the first thing for you to do, and if we can help you with this, to determine your eligibility for applying for this program, and then going through the application process, and then we'll tell you a little bit about the selection process. So the application is web-based, and the link is again on that FOA, and it's also on the ICTR website. And the deadline is the hard deadline is January 29th at 5 p.m. And what needs to be included is just a cover letter. There's no template for this. A one-pager is fine. And briefly to note any information that you think would provide additional clarity. For instance, if there's like some gap in your either education or, since you've been appointed that you like took a medical leave or maternity leave or something that you felt needed to be clarified, you could do that there. A personal statement, 2 to 3 pages, which really is going to describe what your plans are as far as becoming a independent clinical investigator. The specific research plan for your that you're proposing, and then a plan for advanced training. So which specific degree that you're going to do, and or a specific certificate, if that's applicable, that you intend to pursue if awarded. And again, this can be pretty short, 1 to 2 pages. And we want to emphasize that underrepresented minorities, persons from disadvantaged backgrounds, and persons with disabilities are encouraged to apply. So an additional things that need to be submitted as part of the application. One is your complete CV, including a list of publications and any current and past grant support. A nominating letter, which should be written by your primary mentor and the division department director or chair, to be emailed to the ICTR navigator, again, by that same deadline. There needs to be a mentor NIH bio sketch, which they should, if they are mentoring you and they have NIH funding, they should be easily provide to you or provide to, again, the navigator. And then you need 2 additional letters of recommendations. And these should be from someone who knows you well, who can, like a former, either a colleague, current former mentor, say in your training program, who can really comment on your potential. And then unofficial transcripts from all degree granting academic institutions. So you can imagine that all of this is going to take you a little bit of time to get together, as well as you want to give anyone who's needs to write you a letter some advance notice. So if you're thinking about January 29th as an application deadline, and we're getting towards the end of October, certainly you should in November be requesting your transcripts, requesting these letters, and giving them the information of when it's due. So that timeline is January 29th, that everything needs to be submitted. We will conduct the initial review, which will be a written review. Each application will be reviewed by at least 3 members of a review committee. And the whole committee will score every application. And based on those scores, and from that process, there will be candidates. In the past, we've asked about half of the applicants to interview. And so that would happen a little later in March. And then in April, we'll select the final candidate and notify them of their award, as well as all the other applicants. So just in summary, just to remind you the eligibility, you have to be a US citizen or permanent resident, have a clinically relevant doctoral degree and a research focus that's clinically focused. You have to have a current or immediately pending UMB school full-time faculty appointment and be on the faculty for less than 5 years on faculty at the time of the appointment. For applications, you should go ahead and meet with your mentors, assemble your mentoring team, talk to your division chief department chair about the nomination, including that support for the 3rd year. complete the online application process, as well as the application for the UMB graduate school. And in the selection, we will initially be sure to screen you for eligibility, and there'll be that initial review of applications, and then select candidates will be interviewed, and then that final selection. So if you have any questions, it's always good to be checking back between now and January at the website. And once you initiate the application, that helps us know that you are interested in applying. But certainly if you have any questions that we don't end up addressing today, if you have any additional questions, then go ahead and email the ICTR navigator at umaryland.edu. I certainly am available if you want to meet to talk about your project or what you want to do, and so is Dr. Chang and Dr. Khalil. So I think that is the end. And I'm going to leave those slides up for now in case we need to go back and, well, I can always reshare. I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, so we have plenty of time here for some questions. Let's see. All right, so I have one question. If I submit a KL2 in January, will I be allowed to submit an NIH or AHRQ K23 application 1 month later in February? You cannot do that because then you would have concurrent applications. So what would be the better strategy would be if you applied for KL2 in January to wait and apply to the next application date for the K23, which I believe is in June, because we'll have made the determination on the KL2 application by that date. So again, you can either can I submit an ATIP grant in November and then the KL2 in January? I believe the answer to that is yes. Grazie, do you want to comment on that? I think we went through this with a current KL2 scholar.
I'll let Megan comment on that. Megan?
Hi. Yeah, we were just discussing this. You can apply for an ATIP and a KL2, or you can be a KL2 scholar and apply for an ATIP. However, it can't interfere, the effort for the ATIP can't interfere with the 75% effort for the KL2 requirement. And it also has to be a completely different project. The aims need to be separate.
Yeah, so what Megan, when she's saying about the effort, so you have to commit 75% of your time to the KL2 program, including the project that you propose for the KL2. So for the ATIP, the effort can't be more than that 25% that you still have uncommitted. And so your total effort can't be more than 100%. So then you'd have to work out your clinical time, your teaching time, et cetera. And the ATIP commitment can't be more than a total of 25%. If that clarifies that at all.
I think there's an overlap. The ATIP is for 1 year, starting in May to the next year.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time the KL2 starts, you probably would have gone through the fall semester and the spring, right? So you only need to make that teaching adjustment for 2 semesters.
That is correct.
Okay.
For when there's the overlap. Exactly.
Okay. All right.
Thank you for
the
details of the question. All right. From Stella Hines, does the primary mentor need to be full professor? What is the emphasis on the mentoring team? Okay, so let's answer that question first. They do not have to be a full professor. However, it would be helpful that they can show a track record of mentoring, because this is not only important for the KL2 program, but if they're going to be your mentor for the K23 application, the mentoring team is an important criteria in the evaluation of the application. So in the application, the K23 application, as well as the KL2, it's you as a candidate, how you look so far as far as promising as an independent, becoming an independent investigator. The proposal, what you plan to do, the training program that you propose, and the mentoring plan, as well as the institutional resources. So all of those are important components. So having a mentor and mentoring team that look like they are have that experience. It's also helpful if you have a mentor that you have already established a relationship with. That's another aspect that might be evaluated. Because if it's somebody that you're just starting out new and you don't have that track record, it's a little harder for reviewers to assess. So for instance, having a shared publication or publications can show, prior collaboration between a mentor and a mentee. Not that that's required, it's just one of those things that they might look for as showing evidence of a prior collaboration or mentoring relationship. So you don't have to be a full professor, but full professors are more likely to hit all of those notes, right? They're going to have a track record of funding, they're going to have a track record of mentoring, and are more likely to be helpful with having a large network of their own that they can help you with putting together a really good mentoring team. And then the next question, can the expectation for the grant submission be for a VA Career Development Award instead of an NIH K23? Yes, I think any Career Development Award would qualify. Stella, does that answer your questions?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. And then from James, traditionally, how many KL2 scholars are awarded each year? From Maryland, we are selecting 1 per year. And Grazie, can you remind me how many applications we had last year?
I think, I don't remember the top of my head, but I think around 10, 12.
Yeah, that sounds right, around 10. And we interviewed 4?
4, 5.
Interviewed 4 last year. Yeah. So it is, if the real question is how competitive it is, it is competitive, but it's kind of like a lottery ticket. If you don't, submit an application, the chances are 0. At least with submitting an application, kind of get you started in this process. You will get feedback regardless, and that can be very helpful even if you're not funded for the KL2, but it might help you with a more competitive individual K application, as well as, again, as long as you are still eligible the following year, you can submit a resubmission. The whole cohort, so Hopkins has 4 slots and we have 1 slot. So for the combined cohort for each year, it's 5. So, and there's the prior KL2 scholars. So there's currently 1 from 2019 and 1 from 2020. So you're not an only child scholar, because we only have the 1 slot. Okay, again from Stella, if a specific desired master's training program is not available at UMB, can the KL2 awardee pursue master training in another institution? I think we went through this last year. I'm not sure. And maybe Megan, if you could answer the question about maybe about funding if they want to go to a different program.
So I know in the past we have not allowed that. You know, the hope is for the tuition funds to stay at UMB. And because our faculty are eligible for tuition remission, we actually in this past year didn't have a tuition budget. We budgeted more towards the research funds because of the tuition remission. So I think generally no. The answer to that question would be no. But there's always an exception. If there was a really good justification, we could review it with the ICTR leadership and go from there.
Right. And this is, so that would be something it would be worth investigating before you submit the application. So that, you know, so if you could provide us with some, you know, what is that program? Where is it? And why, you know, you want that particular program rather than something that could be provided locally. And we can certainly give you an answer on that. Okay, our next question. I'll be finishing residency prior to joining faculty. Is there any flexibility to the July 1st start date? To clarify, the salary support is $110,000 for 75% research time. So the remaining is funded by home department for clinical time. So yes, the other 25% is, you know, to be determined with your department chair as to how that is distributed. So that's for clinical teaching and for administrative time. And it also can be for research other than the project that's proposed for the K program. And so in asking about the flexibility about the July 1st start date, when are you potentially joining the faculty?
In August, Rose.
In August? So that would probably be okay, wouldn't it, Ratzi?
Yeah, I think as long as the appointment, you know, per the grant, the appointment has to happen within a certain number of months. So I think the answer to that would be yes. There is flexibility.
Right. And the most important thing actually about someone applying who's, you know, finishing their training and about to join the faculty is that the nominating letter from the chairman has to specifically say that the faculty appointment is not contingent upon getting the KL2 award. And they still have to commit to that third year of support.
And Rose, I wanted to add to the 75%. Yes, the salary support is for 110,000, but there have been cases where the 75% exceeds 110,000. So the department or chair would not only have to, you know, work things out for the 25%, but also anything that exceeded 110 for the 75%.
Right. It's proportional. It's up to $110,000.
Yes, exactly.
So for some folks, that 110 is less than their 75%, in which case, again, the chairman has to commit to that difference, what we call cost share. But on the other hand, if the total salary, the 75% is less than 110,000, then you get 75% of your salary. Does that make sense? Did I just totally confuse everybody? Megan's nodding her head. She got it.
You got it. You got it.
Okay. Okay, Doris says, I see a number of awardees for the 2020 KL2 award. Did they just get lucky or are they mostly from Hopkins? I'm not sure where you're referring to that, but there are 4 slots from Hopkins and 1 from Maryland. So yes, there would be 5 per year. We also do have internal KL2 scholars, and those were awarded in 2019. But we are not having a competition for internal scholars this year, just for the CTSA.
So I just want to be clear, is it a different program for the mentored career development awardees and then the UMB ICTR scholars?
Yeah, so Rose, if I could just
Go ahead.
comment, I think what happens is what's listed as 2020 is all of our current scholars. So it might look in the first year, Doris, we awarded, as Rose mentioned, we awarded 5 internal, and there's a 3-year award. So they're current 2020 scholars, although they're in their year 2. We have a year 2 CTSA, and then we also have a year 1. So I think what you're looking at on our website is all of the current 2020, not how many were awarded in 2020.
Okay, thank you.
But I'm glad you're looking at the website. That is a good source of information, and a good place to start exploring what other resources are actually available through the ICTR.
Right, Rose, just one quick interjection with that website. When we look at the other scholars, the TL1 pre and postdocs are our scholars as well.
Okay.
Correct. So yes, there's trainee, there's the K program is specifically for faculty, junior faculty, but there also is a training program for pre and postdoctoral trainings, which is the TL1 program. Okay, does the primary mentor need to have an active R1? So again, it is helpful that the mentor have a funded research program, because although the KL2 program is going to provide you with some research funds, you may need additional support for the research that you propose to do. And the expectation is that that will come from the mentor. And again, having a mentor who has current funding or certainly has a track record of funding will be to your benefit.
Rose, can I just add that they need to show the mentor, primary mentor need to show a successful history of funding. So if they don't currently have a R1, but they have R1s before, or they got substantial foundation grants and other records, they will be able to support the KL2 scholars in a grant writing effort. Or they have pending R1s, they just currently don't have active R1, they have program grants and other sorts of funding. It doesn't need to be specifically R1, that's just a common matrix.
Right. Thank you for adding that clarification. All right. Okay, so it says here, if the awardee is doing human subjects research, then they need to be eligible to submit to IRB. The IRB requires that they be assistant professor and higher. I don't think I knew that. How will they be able to timely submit and get funded if they're not faculty yet? So, well, I suspect what might have to happen is the mentor might need to submit the IRB and then transfer the PI to the mentee once they obtain faculty status, if that is an issue. We do need to have IRB approval, and then that has to be submitted to NCATS for approval before you can start the research project. So there is some timeliness to getting these various approvals moving along, and why we want to select our scholar by April. So there's some time for you to get through all this, the regulatory stuff of the IRB and NCAT's approval. Is it okay to have two mentors from different departments? I actually would encourage you to have more than one mentor. It's good to have a primary mentor because they can help you with organizing the mentoring team meetings. So there's like somebody who's in charge, but it's really good to have multiple mentors because you might need expertise for your project or for your career development that your primary mentor may not have. And so putting together a mentoring team that where you can showcase that they have the various expertise that you need for your development can really be a good thing. It's really hard for one mentor to actually have all of those skills that you might be trying to work on.
And I just wanted to add, part of the career development process is that you need to establish independence from your primary mentor. So by having a committee and people going to bring in other skills that make you a unique expert on campus helps a lot. So, and one way to get people to be great collaborators or mentors is give them the title that they are officially your mentor. So if they're someone that you want to work with who has skill sets that you want to gain, by adding them to your mentor committee, ensure that process will happen smoothly.
Good points. Okay, if we've already have an advanced research degree, can our primary KL2 mentor be the same as our graduate school mentor? Yes, and there's some advantages to that, some disadvantages, but the advantage would be that you'll have some track record, like you should have some publications together. So again, I think there's certainly some advantage to that if you're thinking about going in a somewhat different direction than you did during your graduate work. You know, you might want to, you know, is there another person who would be, you know, better as a mentor, or at least adding to your mentoring team? Christy, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the point we want to stress is that this is the money, the resource is going to a promising new faculty to become an independent investigator on campus, not to add more money to the enterprise of an established investigator. So if you apply to this grant, you just need to, with your graduate advisor as your primary mentor, you have to just show how you're going to have an independent project and different intellectual interests. They could be related, but they cannot overlap too much. And then, you know, make sure you show independent commitment from the department chairs and other senior faculties to nurture your career and have independent space and so forth. Just not, you know, minimum overlap with your advisor / mentor's research interest.
Next question is, yes.
So everybody, so good afternoon, listening intently, and I really want to amplify what Christy just said. The K Awards are not fellowships. They're not pre-doc, they're not post-doc. This is something that you want to do, and this is a trajectory to an independent career and research career. And whereas you will continue to learn, we're all lifelong learners, and your mentor will be important, being able to establish yourself as independent from her or him is very, very important. And that really, I know there's been questions about the qualifications of your mentor and do they have to have this grant or that grant. What's important is yourself, your background, you know, your research protocol, and also your mentorship committee. And that's what we're going to evaluate, and what's going to give you the best opportunity to be successful and an independent investigator. Sorry, Rose, continue.
Oh, no, thank you. That was very helpful comments, Dr. Davis. So we have a few more questions about the mentorship team. So Dr. Hines asked, what is the preferred size of the mentorship team? Is there a general rule of thumb? I would say there's no general rule of thumb, but I would say maybe, you know, somewhere just number-wise 3 to 5. You don't want too many because that gets unwieldy. But what's most important is that you have a really thought out rationale for why each member of the team is a member of your team. And so when you write your application to list each of these individuals, what is their area of expertise and how that expertise is going to be helpful to you. And how that team is going to interact to be giving you feedback as you progress. All right, let's see, any more questions? I think I've gotten them all so far. Grazie, have you received any additional questions through the ICTR Navigator that you think would be good to share with the group? They might be asking these questions later.
I don't think so. I think you've answered all the questions, including the first one you've answered. And we have an FAQ too, and we might update that with some of these questions, perhaps.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions? If you prefer just to unmute and ask your question, that's absolutely fine. If you don't want to put it in the chat box.
And if more questions come along, please feel free to send them to us and we'll get back with you. So as you're completing the application, more and more questions may come along.
And Dr. Davis, do you want to have the last few words?
Well, thank you, Rose, for so skillfully emceeing this meeting and answering the questions, and Christy, Megan, Grazie, Monda. We have an accomplished and experienced team here to help you. Delighted that we have such interest from more than one school, and just want to reiterate that we have 2 mechanisms ongoing in parallel. This year is the CTSA, but next year we will have CTSA and the 5 internal Ks as well. So look forward to seeing your applications, and yeah, any further questions, then you know who to ask. So yeah, take care, and good luck and all the best.
Yep, so thank you very much for your patience and participating today. I hope this session answered most of your questions, but definitely feel free to contact any of us with any questions that you have or about your very specific situation or proposal. So we're happy to help you in any way we can. But if you're planning on applying, I'm going to again urge you to get started on collecting your materials, talking to possible mentors and your chair to make sure that they're aware of your plans for application. All right, thank you very much for your participation this afternoon, and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Thank you, everyone. Take care.